Let's talk about pitching clients for a second. I assume you've seen every possible scenario of pitching clients. What have you learned? What can you impart on our listeners about how to pitch clients?
Well, I mean, that's
It's a big question. I know that.
sometimes pitches go really well, and there's only a couple of rounds, and there's a real connection with the client, and you win, and the work's good, or the ask is good, and you win the pitch because they. And sometimes a client will not ask for creative work. That's a different discussion. They'll just ask for strategic thinking, or they'll just ask for case studies, and agencies will go in and present those. And it's always a chemistry check. Really, the client's trying to see if they get along with you and they like your thinking and they like the people in the room. So often you can do everything right and you just don't win because you they liked someone else more, right? They had a better connection with another agency that went in, whether the work was better or not, or maybe they weren't even showing work in the pitch. So it is, you can do your homework. You make sure you answer the brief of the pitch. What becomes problematic for agencies is when pitches become round one, goes to round two, goes to round three, goes to round four. That's when it becomes like a poker game and for an agency, and they put so much money into it that they can't they kind of have to push all their chips in because they've already invested so much time in the pitch, and then it's gone from four agencies to two agencies, and then so those can be really exhausting and demotivating for staff if they're not managed properly by the agency management. um, but those are things, and some people love pitches, some people don't love pitches. Clients are, as I said earlier with respect to procurement, some clients are pretty good about asking an appropriate amount of work to solve the problem in the ask, and others ask for too much. Um, Pardon me, they ask for too much, and they ask for really what you're doing when you're doing a pitch is you're trying to get this work done in extra time because you still have your existing clients. So you can't let your existing clients know that you're being pulled away from their business. You shouldn't be pulled away from their business to work on this pitch to get new business. Yet an agency, is like Kevin Brady used to say, it's like a funnel. There's always stuff dripping out the bottom, and you have to keep filling the funnel because business goes away for reasons beyond your control. Maybe there's a global realignment from head office says, now we're running all of the business out of X country or Y country, and then you lose business you were doing good work for, and then you have to replace that business. And so you're constantly having to pitch the thing that agencies do generally, and I think most of them do this, is have a kind of a pitch checklist to see if the client opportunity matches that checklist and ticks enough boxes. Do we have experience in that category, whatever the category happens to be? Have we done work with this client before? So we have a master service agreement with the client, so that if we win, we can actually work on it, as opposed to lawyers having to work on a master service agreement for 6 months. Does the client have a good reputation? Do they pay their bills on time? Is it the kind of work we want to do? So there's all of these things that all agencies I think would have as a checklist to say, should we even go in and pitch the business in the first place? And then agencies try to find out what's the long list. It's a long list, 15 agencies, that are all submitting things. And then, you go from a long list to a short list. If the RFP isn't a ton of work, and then it's okay then to have a lot of agencies that are on that long list, and the client and maybe the consultant they've hired or whoever can get down to 5 agencies that can come and do a face-to-face meeting. Maybe there's one more round after that. That seems reasonable to me. Then you've done a face-to-face presentation, and they liked you enough, they want to see you and one other agency. That seems reasonable and fair. And then agencies haven't invested too much time, and they've done their best work and been able to do that while still servicing their existing clients.
Well, sometimes it just seems like you're in an episode of The Bachelor, where
Oh,
the client
well, I
is
mean,
just like, "Oh, well, let's see what you have to
oh,
say. Let's see
honestly,
what you have to
honestly,
say."
I've left pitches thinking we've got this and we haven't. I've left pitches thinking there's no way we won that and we did. There's honestly, it's a mug's game guessing. You can't know. because you don't really know what um, the playing field. You don't know if the playing field is level whenever you enter. You try to see if it's a level playing field, but you don't know if you're there as column fodder, as they say
Yeah.
in the sales business. Or you're just there because they needed five agencies and you tick a box and then you're there. And then someone says, look, I had five agencies and I just happened to pick the one where my friend works. Right?
Which happens
Honestly,
a lot, by the way.
it happens a lot, right? You never really know. You try to know, but you never really know if it's a level playing field. You hope it is, and then if you lose in a level playing field, so be it, right?
Yeah, that happens in job interviews too, where you think, why am I in
Sure,
this job interview? I don't know anyone in this agency. How did that even? You realize, oh, they already have someone picked up, but they just need to bring more candidates in here to
totally. I mean,
say that they.
that's business, and
Yeah, it's just
so
business.
you try to have a ratio of success on pitches, and then every agency has a different ratio of success. You pitch 10, you win 2 out of 10, that's pretty good, or 3 out of 10, that's really good. So there's just it's a volume game. Um, Often. And
Yeah,
then you can go on a run, and then you'd be like, well, we don't need to pitch anything anymore. We need to just tend to our knitting, and then you don't pitch anything more for a while, which is a great place to be if you're in an agency that's had that kind of success.
Yeah, it's not often talked about. The agency client relationship, I believe, is down to the average is 18 months now.
Is it?
I think it's down to 18, less than 2 years. It's down to now, which has been decreasing since it's been keeping track of. So
Well, and I don't know. I'd love to know what the reasons for that are. I'm not 100% sure. I know
uh,
that the average shelf life of a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, is about 18 months.
that's probably it then.
That
That's
lines up.
yeah,
The CMO job is very tough. And, you know, that's why that has a revolving door on it, because the president can go, well, I changed the CMO, and then they let the CMO go, and then they hire a new CMO, and then the CMO says, well, one thing I can change is the agency. I'm going to call an agency review, and then that happens, and then right, and so you can see how that cascades down. Um, but as a client relationship, 18 months is short. That's not great.
yeah, not great. A little bit longer in pharma, I believe, because there is such a long life cycle in products. I believe in
Right, and
pharma.
so
So
in the pharmacy and the healthcare side, you have more certainty because as you just said, that product has a certain, you know that you have it for the project generally, and that project can last 3 or 4 years,
mhm.
which is great because you can make money during that time and do good work, and then you know that it's coming to the end of its life cycle, and then you can be pitching new business and new products in advance of that. And so there is, yes, definitely more certainty there.
Did you want to comment at all on? I think pharma advertising, the overall pie of advertising spend. I think pharma is almost half now. It's getting up there as far as overall spend goes.
And it's interesting work. I would say so. It tends to be recession proof, or more so, because people are always needing these products, and so and the work is interesting. If you've worked as I did in a lot of consumer businesses over your career, and when you come to healthcare work, it's interesting work. You're helping people with you're helping to communicate valuable medicine and solutions to people. So that's edifying in a way that another beer may not be, or another telco or whatever. But it requires a certain maturity. You have to have, you know, seen a lot, I think, to work in that space and know that it's tough, that there's rules and regulations in place, and that you have to be able to do work that is within that corridor of what's acceptable, and each country has different rules and regulations. But that can be good too because you know where the parameters are and you can play within those. So um, it's
yeah. I
really
mean,
an enjoyable area to work in for sure.
Yeah, structure is actually pretty good for creative type people. Have given them
Yes,
parameters. So
yes.
yeah,
People like structure, just like your kids. Kids need structure.
they
They
say
want
they don't,
rules. They ought
but
to.
they do.
They,
Yeah.
ought, they actually want some rules.
Yes, they
And
do.
so for creative people to have some rules, it's not a bad thing.
Hmm.
Because it can actually lead to some really spectacular work. I mean, just go look at the London International or Clio's or Cannes and the health and wellness space, and the work is tremendous.